not funny. Hello, this is Ray with Get Real Ray, a place and space for life and business tips from this creative soul to hopefully inspire you on your journey, or at the very least provide you with some laughs. And so let's get real about what's funny and what's not funny. I was watching some comedy clips on YouTube. I like to have background music while I am working on things that I need to work on, like I need to focus. And I decided, I'm gonna take a break from classical music and just switch it up. So I had some medical videos kind of play in the background. I think it was, so you know the algorithms, right? So doctor reacts to funny SNL medical scenes. Doctor reacts to funny TikTok medical advice. And then rolls into comedian funny whatever. And I decided, this person's pretty funny, so let me pick up my phone. Shame on me! I was editing stuff. I was waiting for things to download. Let me pick up my phone and let me watch some of this funny comedian. So I made it through several comedic clips. I'm gonna say probably 7. These weren't long clips. I'm not like trying to justify the fact that I was working on something and then I stopped working on it to watch YouTube comedy clips. But I was kind of happy, like, oh, yay, female comedian, loving this. She's funny. And I'm like, she's saying things that I've kind of thought to myself, like, yeah, that's weird. And she said it out loud. Oh, this is so great. And I think that is part of my appeal to comedians and possibly other people's appeal to comedians as well. I said Camille. Appeal to comedy and comedians is when someone can point out some sort of discrepancy. I want to say also, I'm going to pause to make sure I got this word right. So here we go. Okay, the word came to my mind. I had to like double check the definition so I don't sound like a fool. But dichotomy, ding, that's the word that I wanted to use. And just identify where it just doesn't make sense, right? We're just not making sense. We're not being consistent. And I think Dave Chappelle is excellent at doing this. This is why so many comedians respect him. And I have a family member who was like, yeah, I used to like Dave Chappelle until he made that joke about trans people. And I was like, well, what's the joke he made, right? I don't know if it was trans people or gay people, I don't remember. But I was like, that joke? Did you really think about what he was saying? And I was like, yeah, I get it, but still shouldn't have said it. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. A truly gifted, smart comedian, a comedian who is not lazy and does their homework, will research to really understand something. Like the philosopher. Philosophers keep asking questions. Why? Until you get to a point where there just seems to be no other explanation. This is what a good philosopher would do, right? And for anyone who's done the college circuit and attended any kind of, in college, most colleges, they make you take like philosophy 101, psychology 101, right? To get this basic critical thinking skills developed. I love thinking critically and just really trying to understand things. I remember my mom saying to me, what did I tell you about thinking? That was her line. What did I tell you about thinking? Because I'd be like, well, Mom, I thought, what did I tell you about thinking? What she was saying to me was, instead of making assumptions, you should have asked questions in order to make sure you had the right information. This is what she was trying to tell me. Yes. And so in my own work, I always try to encourage students to ask questions to make sure that they aren't just taking things at face value. And, you know, sometimes I'm like, I don't have the answer. A lot of times I will have an answer and be able to explain why X, Y, Z. But when we are discussing literature, I will say, you know, prove to me, why did you think what you think? And I'll be like, why? Until finally they're like, oh, well, I think that because, you know, there can be all these kinds of things like, oh, and finally we get down to nitty gritty. And either I say, you haven't done your research, or I can say, now I understand. Now put that on your paper, right? And they get really excited when it's like, okay, you know, they've been trying to dance around or didn't want to be clear and explicit, but when they actually really figure out what it is, why that they think the way they think, or what it is they're really trying to convey to the other person, they feel empowered. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that really runs throughout so many different professions and society as a whole, is that when you are able to clearly express to the other party what it is that you want or need, it can not only feel empowering, but it can get you much further to where you want to be, possibly even achieve that goal, because you've been direct. And so, I love it when comedians kind of point out where we're just not making any sense. And one of the jokes this comedian had, I really appreciated. She was doing a play on words, and her comedy was based on being in California. I love California, born and raised in California. California does have kind of stigma. There's lots of cliches about Californians being very overly, oh gosh, I hate to say like woke or left, but those are the terms that are being pushed throughout the media nowadays, right? And so, you know, California's not the only place, but this is the kind of cliche when you think of California, especially in the Bay Area. Oh, everyone is very much living in a world in which we are all being very respectful of everyone's individual choice and trying to honor how everyone wants to be seen, and everyone is seen in all these things, yes? And I remember back when we had politically correctness. Ding! I believe that was the 90s. And so you wanted to make sure you were being politically correct. That was the phrase. Now, what do we call it now? Anyway, I don't even know. I guess you call it woke now. There's always a phrase. It's just so silly. And so this joke, the comedian was talking about how she's a single mom. It's been a problem in LA. Her son's school called her in and said, hey, you've missed all the PTA meetings, and your son's been, really aggressive towards other kids in the class. And so we just feel that maybe his father should talk to him. Is there a male in the house that could talk to him? Maybe his father could talk to him. Now, we already have a little problem with the setup because in a California school in Los Angeles, the teacher or educator would never just automatically assume there's a father in the household. There's just too much diversity going on that just wouldn't be the assumption. But she specifically said father, and there's a reason for this. So her response was, that can't happen because he's transparent. So she has this pause. So there's a joke, right? Like, oh, the father's not in the picture because the father no longer identifies as male. He's now transgender. And then she drops parent on there. The father is a parent, but transparent, the word, he's invisible, right? Very funny joke. And so you might be like, oh no, Ray, I got it. But I explained it a joke anyway. And I thought, oh, that's very clever. That's so funny. I watched a few more of her videos, and I was like, yeah, you got some funny stuff here. And then I came across a video clip where this was her more recent work, and she was talking about, oh no, it was just like a fake news broadcast. And so she was just making commentary on various events in the news cycle. And I was very much intrigued. Like, forget the work I was working on. I was intrigued because this is actually when I first started this channel. Before I posted anything, my intent was to do a fake newscast. And I had drawn out the logo, which actually is used on all of the graphics. I drawn out the logo. I had set up my desk. I was designing these like cards that I was going to order so I can have little cards to look like I'm a newscaster with my cards. I mean, they got teleprompters now, but back in the day, you were allowed to have cards. And, you know, like those night show hosts, right? They have cards, right? And so I was really excited and set for this. But I never seemed to have time to sit down and write out what I was going to say, plus get dressed up beforehand because I wanted to present this news persona. So that means I couldn't be looking like this shirt. It's not wrinkled. I mean, it is wrinkled. It is wrinkled. It's not iron, right? So I just never was able to carve out the time to get it together to present this persona that I wanted to present. Kind of like the story of my life, people. Okay. I ain't got the time to get it together. But anyhow, so I just wound up recording me speaking. It's like, I have this idea. Let me just press record and let me just say what I'm gonna say. I got this idea, and maybe we'll get somewhere. And so I was intrigued. This lady, she clearly had showered and put on makeup. She had a graphic behind her, like a picture of herself. So not even a graphic, but like a mural behind her. And I was like, okay, let me watch. And she started talking about the protest in LA. I was like, okay, wait, that joke about setting cars on fire, that's kind of funny. Yeah, your baby AI. Yeah, okay, all right, I get it. That's funny, that's funny. And then she starts talking about Meghan Markle twerking with a fake baby bump. I was like, what? And she shows a little clip of Meghan Markle dancing. I'm like, that's not twerking. I know twerking, and that's not twerking. Did Meghan Markle call it twerking? Doubt Meghan Markle called it twerking. And she starts going off about, she just starts going on a rant. And clear that I took away from watching the few minutes that I watched, you are not a Meghan Markle fan, which is, you know, fine. But there were no jokes. It was just like this B and F her, and she's going around crying, same old story, poor me, and she wants to be Diana. And I was like, whoa, hold the presses. Where is she getting all this? This just all sounds to me like crazy tabloid stuff. Now, I did read Harry's book. I thought it was excellent. I went into it with zero expectations. I was just like, it's a book, and I want to do more reading. And I'm very curious as to what it would be like being raised in an environment where you are a prince, basically. Like, people in society look at you as being better than, right? I mean, that's, you might be like, no, princes and kings and queens are not better than us. Da, da. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is the foundation of those roles. This is how it all started, right? Even look at the Pope, okay? The Pope's not better than any of us, but yes, the very definition, the very foundation of that role of being a Pope is that that person is held to different standards. And people look to the Pope to give guidance on how to follow the Lord's law on all of these things. So one is taking that person's word as words one should follow, as being, you know, a bit more authoritative. Yes? And so, regardless of whatever you feel about royal families and all of these things, in every society, there is always a person or group of people that are placed in positions in which people in that society think that person or that group of people are held to a different standard, and so they are expected to follow different rules and maybe thought of it being a little I'm gonna say better, but you have to define, you can define better however you want. It's not necessarily that they're more worthy or anything like that. So I leave that there. I leave that there. There is probably another word one could use other than better, but that's the word that comes to my mind, and I'm not gonna pause this video to Google up another term right now. Okay, so this comedian's rant made me feel like, what's going on here? Let me tell you why. And this is not a video about Meghan Markle, but I'm just going to kind of do a quick little transition. Okay, so the comparison between Meghan and Diana, the comparison the media has created was that Meghan is an American, born and raised. Diana, American, born and raised. They both married into the royal family. Yay! Both were loved by the public initially, and both brought change to the royal family. Okay? Now, when Diana left, many people were upset because it's like, you can't do that. That's not allowed in the royal family, regardless of what the family thought. Like, no, you can't. What princess leaves a prince? That's just not how it's done. Our whole Disney vision is ruined. Okay, so when Meghan Markle left, she left because she has been on record saying that there were things done within the home that made her feel unsafe and just flat out racism, okay? And there are many people saying, that's impossible. That's not okay. Why would the group of people that we consider to be better than ever do something to make you feel less than? Now, in case you haven't noticed, I'm a woman of color, okay? And it historically has happened that people of color are not welcome in many circles, especially circles that have historically just been all white. Okay. Now, I remember when Harry and Meghan had announced their wedding and they were getting ready to be married. And my ex-husband is white. He is from England, born and raised. And he was just in giggles. He hates the royal family. But he was like, finally, this is going to be hilarious to watch them have to, you know, have a black person in the royal family. And I thought, yo, that's a weird reaction. Like, I'm over here like, oh, that's so cool. This lady met her Prince Charming and they're going to have a wedding. And you're over here going, let's stick it to those white royals. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Okay. So, anyway, yes, they get married. The relationship with the royal family falls apart, but Meghan and Harry seem to be doing just fine. They both publish books. They both have multiple businesses. They got babies. They're living their lives. And that's what you should do. Live your life. Get married and live your life. And so I have enjoyed listening to Meghan Markle's podcasts. I listen to a lot of different podcasts. I do run multiple businesses. One of her podcasts is about female entrepreneurs. So I didn't go, I've got to listen to this because it's Meghan Markle. I was like, oh, a podcast about female entrepreneurs. Yay! And I've enjoyed the interviews. Okay, now, so to listen to this comedian talk about Meghan Markle twerking with a fake baby bump, and she just lies, and, you know, she is comparing herself to Diana, F her, this be, I'm not making this up. Maybe I should just include a clip, but I might be too lazy to actually do that. So all of this stuff, and all she does is complain with the same old story. Poor me, I'm such a victim. And I thought, well, clearly you haven't bothered to listen to this woman's podcast. She's got 2 different podcasts, and she doesn't talk about her experience living in England in her podcast. It's like, yeah, my husband, and yay, I make jam. And so who's out there crying the poor me story? Other than people who choose to hate her because, why? Because she's a Black woman who complained, right? She's a Black woman who complained. That's what it's about. If she hadn't said anything, it was bad enough you Black and you got married into the royal family. But if you didn't complain, if you would just smile, kept smiling from the cameras, and just did what you was told, then everything fine. But how dare you complain about your mental health, about not being ready to, go on all these press junkets, or not wanting to show your baby to the public? How dare you, right? How dare you want to break from the norm? How dare you say anything bad about this group of people, which we've held at a different standard? And so I thought, wow, this is unfortunate, because I was enjoying this comedian's clever play on words, and now we've just gotten into lazy, barely comedic effort. Anytime a comedian just throws out a bunch of random swear words, anytime a comedian just throws out a bunch of swear words to be funny, that's not funny. And so I found myself questioning, well, where are the areas in my life in where I create art and I'm lazy about it? And it has happened to me in dance where I'm tired, I've run out of time. I remember ending one show where I had this beautiful finale planned in my head. I didn't even have the costume finished when the show started. And somehow I was hoping I'd have a chance to pull it together before the show ended. But I was also like managing all the transitions. I think I may have been running the music. And I never got to touch that costume or that fabric. And literally just walked out at the end of the show. And I was like, well, guys, that's it. Thanks for coming. Literally, I had a picture of myself doing this. Because I just had nothing, I had nothing left. That was also like the last night I spoke to one of my friends. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. She was very combative that night. I don't know what was going on. But I didn't feel good afterwards. I felt like, oh, there were so many great parts of that show, and I felt like I did a good job of letting everyone else shine, but I didn't feel like I shined that night. And there were many shows where, I remember one show where I had someone else host, and I had heard that they did such a great job hosting my show previously, and I'd always hosted my show for years, but previously they did a great job hosting, and so I was really excited to like not have to do 20 things. I'll let them host, and then I'll just do my dance numbers and work on the music. And the show was going, and halfway through the show I was like, no one's laughing at this person's jokes. The transitions are really slow. This is not moving. This is not funny. This is not fun. It's not funny. And I had to talk to that person during intermission. I was like, hey, maybe I can help out. And they wound up like leaving early or something. I took over the second half of the show. People left before the second half of the show. I remember dancing, and I hadn't finished showing my costume again. And as I was dancing, some of the fabric got a little loose, and I stepped on it, and I almost slipped, and I wound up having to pull it down out of the garment and did my little dance. And I remember there was someone in the audience who I was so excited he came to my show because I knew he went to all of the best shows in town. And I know he was excited to see me, and I know he was let down because it was like, ooh, okay. I finally saw her perform, and her costume's not that great. This show was kind of empty. The MC's not funny. This is not energetic. And I felt so bad. I had been previously known for giving these great shows, and, having to change venues just really impacted how we were able to pay people. And man, yeah. So being out there as an artist, wanting to do better, not doing your best. And I was wondering, did this comedian want to do better? And I didn't get that feeling. I mean, she put out the content. It's video with just her. There didn't really feel to be any preparation. Why are you calling this twerking? If a black woman dancing, just moving around, and you're shaking your hips, why are you calling that twerking? Is it just because it's a black woman moving her hips? Are you saying it's twerking because you think it's clickbait, because you think it's funny, or do you really think that's twerking? And that disturbs me. That disturbs me. The idea that we're at a point in society where anything a black person says that is a complaint as a woman is you're a B, right? And if you're dancing and your hips move, oh, you must be twerking. Now, twerking does have a place in dance where it is thought of as beautiful. Twerking is also very known to be very sexual and dirty, right? Hot girl summer, dirty. I spent, I'm gonna say a good amount of time. I was gonna say a number of years. I'm like, was it years I spent researching that? I spent a good amount of time researching hip hop, the history of hip hop, and the art of twerking. And I struggled with twerking as something that should be taught to young people. Even though music videos or whatever, oh, look at that girl twerk or whatever. And then I worked in a middle school, and, teachers like, oh, look at so-and-so, look at her, look how low she could go. And I'm thinking, why am I being asked to praise this 11-year-old for dropping it like it's hot? Like, that's not okay for an 11-year-old. But the 11-year-old's not thinking it's sexy. The 11-year-old is thinking this is a cool dance move. And so my brain is going, what are we doing to our young women when we are celebrating them for doing these moves that are related to sex and being sexy? And even though young people don't fully understand this, I mean, when I was young, I remember dancing to all I want to do is zoom, 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 and a boom, boom, shake, shake your rope. Check, baby, 1, 2, 3, 4, check, baby. It's a good song. I still love that song. But what does zoom, 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 and a boom, boom mean? Right? And the ladies in the video in their bikinis, and they, flip my hair this way, look at my butt. They weren't clapping butt cheeks back then. But no one was saying, Ray, you shouldn't be listening to that. I remember 2 Live Crew. What was they singing? I don't remember. But, I definitely remember, kind of hate to say it, but white people in the media going nuts and politicians going nuts. Oh, you're corrupting our youth with these things. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's so sexual. I don't know that any of those things actually led to more youth pregnancies, drug abuse, or anything of that nature, or shootings in schools. Nope, didn't lead to any of those things. I would say that though those songs were promoting the freedom to express a desire for sex or liking sex and the female anatomy, and even Salt and Pepper with their, push it. Oh, push it real good. I mean, when you think about it, like, that's disgusting. But these were people saying, hey, I like what I like. And that was important. It was important to be able to say, hey, we are human, and we should not have to be so secretive about things that are normal and natural. The downside is that here we are 30 years later from when those songs came out, 40 years later from when those songs came out, and we have a lot of women, especially women of color, who see their self-worth in their attractiveness to the opposite sex. And so was the promotion of these things in pop culture the negative residual effect? If pop culture had not said, hey, push it real good, then would young women today be so focused on making sure your hair look good, your nails look good, you got the right figure and all this stuff? And I don't know. I kind of maybe want to say maybe it's not just pop culture. I definitely wouldn't say it's lyrics, music videos. Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's just lyrics. So what we say is maybe the pedestal we put our celebrities on, maybe? I don't know. I mean, Madonna was rolling around on the floor in a wedding dress and dancing around in a bra. But I don't see young women today rolling around on the floor in a wedding dress, really dancing around in a bra. And her music is still popular. So, and she also was like, express yourself sexually, but I don't know that the way she I don't know that has still an impact today. And when we look at female pop artists today, I can't say that there's any female pop artist today that's really as out there as she was back in her day. Like, I look at Salt and Pepper and what they were talking about, and then you look at Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, and they've kind of like upped the game. So I don't know. I don't know if we can say it is the music artist. What I liked about Meg Thee Stallion, I don't love her music, but I did like when I initially learned about her was like, oh, this is a young woman whose mother was a rapper. This young woman is in college studying to be nursing. And she's like, yeah, this rapping pays my bills, but I want to be a nurse and I have plans. And so I like that she very much said, this is the persona I portray as an entertainer. And then this is what my goals are in life and career. And I thought that's cool because that's showing young women, hey, as an artist, we create personas. So I guess that's going to be another video is me dissecting, why is it today that women, young women, are very fixated on physical aesthetics and not, why is it so prevalent amongst Black minorities as opposed to other minority groups? But as I'm talking about that, I'm thinking, social media, those Kardashian girls. I saw this thing. I was listening to. I didn't see it. I was listening to a different podcast. I told you I like to listen to podcasts. I was listening to a different podcast. I think it was Call Her Daddy. Yes, it was Call Her Daddy. I don't really listen to it very often. That's a whole separate thing. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. But the host, Alex Cooper, was interviewing Paris Hilton, and there was mention of Paris's sex tape, and I thought, oh, she had a sex tape? I think I vaguely remember something about that. And she mentioned being friends with Kim Kardashian back in the day, and I thought, well, that's just weird. What was with all these little girls running around having sex tapes? What was all y'all doing? That's just crazy. I'm friends with Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan. I'm thinking, y'all all done had some kind of crazy drama. What was going on with you children? Oh my goodness. So anyway, yeah. Now, as I mentioned it, definitely social media. But that'll be a separate video about how women, the way they see themselves today. Anyhow. And so I started all of this because the question was, what is funny? What is funny? Why do I think that is funny? And what do we owe to our consumers, audience, friends, family, right? I felt that this comedian owed it to the general public to kind of not be lazy in her art if she could avoid it, right? So for me, being lazy at my shows felt unavoidable. I had already committed to these dates. I had venues booked. People bought tickets. People performing in the shows expected to be paid. And me being lazy on my side, running out of time, not finishing the costume, whatever, right? It impacted me the most. And at the very best possible case scenario, it didn't impact the other performers very much, right? Oh, you were great in that show that wasn't so great, right? And you'll go on to be great elsewhere. This is fine. I didn't do anything that ruined anyone else's careers. But this comedian to put up this video of her doing her fake news segment in which I felt like she didn't really do any research on what you're complaining about. And even if you don't do any research, you haven't said anything that is representing these opposites that just makes it truly hilarious. Meghan Markle is not allowed to complain about anything because she has millions of dollars, so you don't have the right to complain. Well, lady, you are a comedian on YouTube who have lots of followers. You have money. Do you have the right to complain about being a single mom? There are going to be people saying you don't have the right to complain. So I just felt it was lazy. And if you're watching this and you're like, well, I'm not a comedian. I'm not an entertainer. I don't think I owe anybody anything. Well, if you do have a business, your consumers, your clients, your customers are expecting for your product to be good, your service to be good, and it's not going to be good all the time. And that is something that we're always struggling with and juggling, especially if you're a service provider. You always want to give your best, but there's going to be days when you're just tired. And so what do you do? What do you do when you're like, oh, I can't give my best today? Should you not have posted like that comedian should not have posted? Do you do like I do and give what you can and just hope you can figure out how to do better next time? Meh. And if you're like, nope, I just work for Johnson's Jewelry and I get my regular check, I don't have my own business, I don't owe anybody anything. Well, what about with your family? When at times are you just off your rocker with your family and they're like, this house ain't clean, this food ain't right, or you driving kind of crazy, right? I make no assumptions about who you are or what your role is with your family, okay? But there's just gonna be times with friends or family where they're just not giving your best. And I don't know, maybe you just have to be like, excuse me, everybody, I'm gonna be in my room for the evening. I can't give my best, so I'll see you tomorrow, right? Maybe that's what you have to do. Okay, so I don't know that I really gave any kind of solutions. I like to kind of start with an observed problem and then relate it to both business and life and then give a solution. But I did want to jump on because I literally just finished watching this comedian stuff and it bothered me so much. And I thought posting in the comments really doesn't do much here. Maybe she'll see my comment, maybe not, but she's probably not going to care anyway, even if she does see it. But I thought, maybe someone else out there has had that moment of, should I express myself? And so my tidbit to you is, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Be informed. Because when you are being lazy and you're not informed, then just a turn off, right? You don't want to alienate friends or family. If you have a point, make your point. And that's what separates the masters of comedy from all the others. All right, my friends, be a master of life. Until next time, peace.